Hey everyone, welcome to part 26 of my no armor, no ranged weapons, no deaths and fist only playthrough of Demon Souls. And it's time to fight the boss, the old monk. Well, once I get up these stairs and get to him anyway. Dealing with this mind flayer on these stairs was a little bit of a pain. He blocks the stairs so it's impossible to roll past him and get behind him. And if I stay in the pocket with him for too long, he gets me with that lantern shockwave blast that he does. Now, I could have just kept rolling in and healing and rolling in and hitting him and healing, but I was a little bit concerned if I did that, if he chained a bunch of those lantern blasts, he could keep knocking me down and then, yeah, maybe kill me. So I thought the safest approach to dealing with him was probably just to lure him down the stairs and get him to follow me into the open area down the bottom. And there I'd be able to get behind him and backstab him to my heart's content. That was the plan anyway. But as it turned out, he was coded not to go down into this open area. But it still worked out the same because as soon as he got low enough, he turned his back to me. And it seemed he would always turn his back to me if I backed off into the open area. Still almost killed me though. He got my health down low enough. So it was a good idea to bring him down here, I think, just for safety's sake. Again, not using any shields in this playthrough, only holding the Adjudicator shield in between fights to take advantage of its health regeneration. And I knew there was another mind flayer right here, but I wasn't as concerned about this one because I thought I could get to its back until he decided to run forward down the stairs. And then I realized I've got to do the same with this guy as I did with the last one. I guess I wasn't quick enough to run up behind it really. Had I been fast enough, I could have got behind it and saved myself having to drag it all the way down these stairs. Thing was, he just didn't seem to want to really follow me very much, so I didn't want to spend forever trying to get him down to the bottom of the stairs, so I took a different tactic with this guy and I just tried to run in, get a couple of hits and then dodge away from the shockwave blast. That seemed to work pretty well. I call it a lantern blast, but it's not really a lantern blast, it's actually a bell that he's holding. So it's like a bell shockwave blast. It's generally only an annoyance too when you get hit by it, but when the mind flayers are red, when they're Black Phantom versions of themselves, that bell shockwave blast does a lot of damage, and I'm pretty sure if it went into a loop of using it, it could keep knocking me down and kill me. So I had to be very careful of that. It's pretty cool actually when you think about it. It's this little tiny bell that he's ringing, but when the shockwave blast goes off, it's the sound of a huge giant bell that you might see in a building. Pretty cool. I took a shot at this crystal lizard, but basically with fists, it's a waste of time. Alright, now it was time to fight the old monk boss, which is the final boss for this world. He can be another player if you're in PvP mode, but for this challenge I've been running in offline mode, so this is just an NPC boss basically. I knew he had that long distance soul ray blast, and I knew he was also kind of dangerous to go toe to toe with in melee as well, so I really preferred to try to get to his back, but that's a little easier said than done. But the one thing that struck me when I started fighting him was he's wearing a set of claws. And I wasn't sure, but I was really hoping if I beat him that maybe he would drop a second set of claws for me. That would have been really cool. Spoiler alert though, he doesn't drop the claws. And in fact, he only has claws if you're offline and or if you're fighting this boss and this boss isn't another player. Something I didn't know when I was doing this fight, but I know now, is that the old monk can parry you. And if he parries you, he'll do a riposte that could insta-kill you. I had no idea about that, so here I am, going toe-to-toe with him with my health down at half, not worrying about it. When I do this fight in the future, I'll be sure to keep my health at full before going toe-to-toe with him, that's for sure. I think I was just really lucky here that he doesn't parry me. I don't think he parries me once. I might be wrong though, I can't really remember. I guess we'll see. The other thing he gets are homing soul arrows. The lower his health gets, the more of them he can have. He's got 2 now because his health isn't that low, but as his health gets lower, he can get up to 5. Watch here, he points his arm in one direction and he does a soul ray blast. I don't think it's going to hit me, but it comes sideways out of his arm and hits me. I thought that was pretty unjust, especially since it put me in a position where I almost died, so that sucked. This fight could have been so much cooler if there was a second set of claws in the game and I could have been using 2 sets of claws as well as the old monk, and that would have been cool. Oh, and I just healed in time. Otherwise I would have been killed by that soul ray blast. Holy cow. I think that definitely qualifies as one of my extreme close call moments. I allowed myself to get hit by his soul ray and his homing soul arrows way too many times in this fight. Sometimes because I was taking a risk to try and get the backstab, which prevents the homing soul arrows from firing off, but other times just because, just watching this back, I can see my dodge timing was out. Perhaps wasn't familiar enough with the timing of them, but yeah. It didn't matter though. He was ultimately easily beaten in the end. These chairs have nothing to offer. I'm actually just having a bit of fun, that's all. Alright, so that was the entire tower of LATRIA completed, all the bosses defeated, and this whole world was now pure white world tenancy. And now that it was at pure white world tenancy, I headed to the Ivory Tower because I knew the key to rescue Lord Riddell from the Prison of Hope was in one of the towers here. I had a pretty good idea as to where to go since I took notice of the towers, how they were structured when I came through here before fighting the Man-Eater boss. So I had a pretty good idea as to where to go. I wasn't 100% certain, so I kind of expected to get a little lost. But I did expect that I should be able to find that key reasonably easy. I knew I had a mind flayer to deal with on these stairs again, and I thought running down it might be a little easier to run past and then roll past it and then keep running. So my plan here was to go for it and to try and just bypass this mind flayer altogether. And it didn't work. And here I thought my run was over. I was sure it was going to throw me off the edge, but it didn't. It dropped me. Then I rolled away. Then I thought I could run for it, but that shockwave, even though it was still invisible, apparently I ran straight into it and it knocked me down. So that was a really scary moment. In hindsight, trying to run past this mind flayer like that, not a good idea. So I decided my next strategy to try would be to move away from it until it didn't see me anymore, and then when it turned away and started walking down the stairs, to sprint to it and try to get a backstab on it before it could turn around, and then when the backstab put it down on the ground, just to run for it. Not to fight it at all, just to put it on the ground and then sprint for freedom. And that worked perfectly. So my guess was the key was at the top of the tower that had the first chain that dropped the heart, and I was pretty sure that that tower that I just stared at was the second one. I wasn't 100%, but I was 99%. So I moved on with the hope of finding the first tower. In watching this back too, it's pretty obvious that I took the long way to get to the first tower. Since the second tower was the first tower in this backtracking, it means I almost certainly took the long way, and this might have been a hell of a lot easier had I just gone to the Archstone after the Fool's Idol boss. I don't know what Archstone that's called, but yeah, the Archstone that's closer rather than the Archstone that's further. I probably wouldn't have had to deal with that Mind Flayer either. But in fairness to myself, this is only my second playthrough. It's not like I'm an expert on all of these levels. So it stands to reason that I would go the long way sometimes, get lost sometimes, and probably miss a bunch of stuff too. I have no idea what I've missed. So if you do, if you're watching this whole series and you can see things I've missed, by all means tell me. I would love to know. So there I realized that that's the archstone I should have gone to, and now I have my bearings. And now I know where the first tower is that I need to head to. Yeah, that's the one. I can see just by watching this that this was the moment I knew exactly where I was going. Oh, and this gargoyle just dropped the Spiral Rapier, which is a thrusting weapon with an absurdly low drop rate. The drop rate percentage on that at pure White World Tendency is meant to be, I believe, similar to the drop rate for the Iron Knuckles, which anyone watching this series saw me farm a little bit for in the earlier parts and absolutely never get. So I'm assuming it's about a 1% drop rate, with my luck being low and being at pure White World Tendency. So that was a pretty lucky drop right there. I would have preferred to be able to run all the way to find this key, but it just wasn't worth the risk of maybe falling off the ledge either side of running around these gargoyles or any other enemy for that matter. I really had to fight them just for my own safety. Unless they flew into the air like that stupid gargoyle did, then I could just leave them behind. Oh, and there's case in point. I came so close to the edge there by trying to go around that gargoyle. And also, the other case in point is when that mind flayer grabbed me on the stairs because I tried to run past it. So yeah, I had to fight some of these enemies even though I didn't really want to. And after this super lengthy journey, I was really hoping I wasn't wrong and that this was the tower the key was in. And the stairs were here, which meant the rubble was cleared because of pure White World Tendency, so I knew this was the right place. Sure enough, Prison of Hope, second floor, west cell key. I had been planning on doing a number of pure White World Tendency events one after the other later in my run, but the reason I'd wanted to do the pure White World Tendency events one after the other was because it was going to be exciting from a challenging play point of view, but I didn't think running to get that key was very exciting, so I was quite happy to do that now. The problem was, now that I had the key, I really wanted to go and rescue Lord Riddell. So I pretty much decided that I would do any pure White World Tendency event that wasn't particularly exciting, basically any event that wasn't an actual fight, and I would leave the rest for later. Rescuing Lord Riddell, you know, you're opening a jail cell door, that's about it. So, I mean, it's exciting from a completionist point of view, but that's about it. So I thought, yeah, I'll go and I'll rescue Lord Riddell, and in fact, I'll do any pure White World Tendency event that I don't think's terribly exciting. And then I'll try and do all the most exciting ones in a row towards the end. At least that's what I was thinking right about now. Most of the pure White World Tendency events, I was kind of winging it on them from memory from my first playthrough. And I'd already accidentally killed Garl Vinland in the Sanctuary of Sorrow, so that was one exciting pure White World Tendency fight event that was now off the table because I'd already done it. So yeah. I pretty much was, my challenge was to do all the pure White World Tendency events at the end, but obviously as I went, I realized I was actually going to knock a few of them off before that. Doesn't matter, it's all fun. From memory, I thought Lord Riddell's cell was here, so I was a little bit off course there. Thought I'd check your inventory to see if there's anything worth getting, but there really wasn't, not for a run like this.
Well, that's quite all right.
And now I just had to try to get my bearings and work out how to get to Lord Riddell from here. You can almost hear my mind ticking over, staring up there thinking, is that the way? I don't know. Prison of Hope. It's so confusing. I think I can run this 100 times and it's still going to be confusing. You know, the bells have lights on them, so they're actually lantern bells. So I was right calling them lanterns. Lantern bells. So it's a lantern bell shockwave. Or is it a bell lantern? I'm not allowed to use ranged weapons, so I can't get that item. And found him. In return, he gives the dull rat's ring as a reward. If you're at pure Blackworld tendency, he also reappears outside of this area, just near this cell here, as a Black Phantom, but that won't be happening in this playthrough because this is a no-death playthrough, so there will be no Black Phantom Lord Riddell to deal with. Now, the other thing is, at this moment, I knew letting him out of the cell had also opened up another area of the Prison of Hope, but I couldn't quite remember where that area was. I knew I'd already been there in a previous part and that there was a gate that I couldn't get through. Now that Lord Riddell was free, I knew I'd be able to get through that gate, but I just couldn't remember where that was. So what I thought I'd do here is work my way down to where the Fool's Idol boss was, and try and get my bearings in the Prison of Hope along the way and maybe stumble upon that gate or maybe jog my memory as I'm moving through it as to where that gate was. So yeah, that's what I do from this point forward. Pretty much move through, opening up everything I can now that I have the second floor west cell key, and work my way towards the bottom in the hope of finding this other secret area. I couldn't remember what was in that area. I didn't know if there were any items of any value, but as part of the challenge of trying to complete as much of the game as possible, I really wanted to find it before the end of this playthrough. So I did think it was on the lower levels, just before you leave the Prison of Hope towards the Fool's Idol boss. I wasn't sure though, but I thought I was pretty sure it was, which is why I decided that's where I would make my way to right now. So yeah, I thought the door I was looking for was somewhere down here. I had to also be careful because I knew there was a hole in the floor somewhere and I couldn't quite remember where it was. I couldn't remember breaking that stuff and coming through here before, but I thought I had, so I don't know why that stuff was there again, but this wasn't the door I was looking for. And there's the hole. I'm lucky I saw it. And that's the door I was looking for. But before going through it, I thought I'll just check out if there's any cell doors up here that I can open now that I have the first floor cell key. And then after all that, I completely forgot my plan was to double back and go through that door. And I thought to myself, I must have missed what I was looking for. Well, maybe I'll come back to it later. So in the space of about 20 seconds, I completely forgot that I'd found the door that I wanted and decided to leave. So yep, spoiler alert, I do end up remembering that and I do come back to that door later, but I'll show that in another part. Okay, my plan was to go to the Tunnel City next and complete that area, beat Flame Lurker, and then beat the Dragon God to complete that world. However, there were two NPCs that I wanted to rescue, Bior and Uria. To rescue Uria, you need 4 pieces of the official's clothing set, so I'm checking my storage here to see if I had those 4 pieces. It turned out that I had 3, which meant there was a 4th fat official that I needed to kill to get the final piece. And I knew there was a fat official to the left of where I'd been farming for the Iron Knuckles, so I headed to the Tunnel City in the hope that if I killed him, he would drop the final piece of the official set for me, and I'd have enough to go and rescue Uria. To rescue Bior, you need the Iron Ring of Keys, which is a set of keys that drops from a fat official in the inner ward. I already had those keys because I had already done the inner ward. So I could have rescued Bior at any time, but I just wanted to rescue him at around the same time as I rescued Uria because they're fairly close to each other. The reason Bior is good to rescue is because if he's free, he'll turn up and help you fight the Penetrator boss. And after I completed the Dragon God, Penetrator boss was the next one on my list. And I didn't think fighting him with fists was going to be a very fast fight, but with Bior helping me, I thought the fight would go a lot faster than 20 minutes anyway, and I did expect it to be 20 minutes if it was done with fists alone. So the final fat official that I thought I hadn't killed was here, next to this tunnel, and I didn't know if he would drop the piece of official's clothing that I needed, but I couldn't think of another fat official that I hadn't killed, so it had to be him or I was going to be basically in the dark. And he did, he dropped them, so I was pretty happy, and that meant I now had all of the officials' clothes and I could go and rescue Uria the Witch. The reason you need the clothes is in order to gain access to her, she's imprisoned by another fat official, and if you're wearing fat official clothes, then he'll open up the path you need to get to Uria the Witch. But if you're not wearing the clothes, then he won't open up the path and you'll never get to Uria. Alright, now all I had to do was go back to the Nexus and then to the inner ward and rescue them. Alright, this video is already up to 30 minutes, which is 5 or 10 minutes longer than I like all of these parts to be. So with that said, I'll show you my rescue of Bior and Uria in the next part, as well as continue on towards Flame Lurker. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.